Yes, yes. This is the Rastafari Samurai, never leaving you dry in your eye. I approve this message nationwide. Scene. We are here at Down to Earth Podcast with my brother Sean Myrie, and we have Danny Yo returning back on Down to Earth Podcast. Man, how you been, man?
What's good, man? It's good to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me, bro.
I see that you've been doing a lot of things since we talked. This is probably almost what 3 years ago? 3 years ago, I think.
Brother, I apologize to you. I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, shit. Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry.
Okay.
This guy's not talking loud enough,
Yeah,
man.
I-
Okay, good. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
But I say it's been like 3 years, almost 3 years since we talked, right?
Yeah.
You're
and-
like on the first season when I started this. You're like the second guest, I think, or second or third guest, and
For
it was
real.
like an honor
Original
having you.
season. Nice.
Yeah, man, original. Long time. It's been a while. Like, and it's an honor to have someone like you, someone who's from, like, my opinion, the foundation of when Toronto hip hop started to get recognized internationally.
I said to my
and
brother, if
everything.
we're gonna have anybody as an original pioneer on here, I want this guy on here. I want this guy on here because straight up, no, I have to ask the question beforehand. I have to get into this.
Respect. I appreciate you,
I
man.
gotta
That's
get into
big.
this. Yo, when you made Dear Hip Hop, like I knew, like what was going on at the time for you, man? Like straight up, because up to this day, that record still spins in my brain.
Thank you, man. Well, I appreciate that. And it seems like that's the case for a lot of people because we're in November. So every November, I remember the release date. And it's been 26 years since the song was released on Rap Essentials Volume 1. So for 26 years later, for people to still be talking about that song in that way, it's a huge honor. It's crazy to think that much time has passed.
Did you think it would have been like a classic up till now?
I could have never predicted literally anything to happen in the past 26 years because, I mean, listen, there was a time in my life where I wanted to be Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy is that they just dropped Thriller 40. And because this month, November of 2022, marks 40 years since Thriller came out.
Okay.
And I was 5. And so there goes my age. and I was like, that album made me know what I wanted to do with my life. And I've been a fan ever since. And so the point is, in wanting to be the new MJ and like knowing that I wanted my life to be involved in like the entertainment world and to be a singer-songwriter and eventually rapper when I discovered hip hop, no, when I'll answer the other question, but when I dropped Dear Hip Hop as a single and it was just a song licensed to a compilation at the time, I had all these aspirations, but what I realized in the past 26 years is not reaching Michael Jackson level, which no one has, was never the point. You know what I'm saying? Loving what you do for a living, loving what you do creatively, loving the fact that you utilize your art to express yourself, and that 26 years later, I'm still doing that, and I'm being interviewed by brothers like yourself.
Respect.
That is the honor for me. That is the thing that makes it go, everything I've ever wanted to do was all worth it. So no, I didn't predict that I'd be talking about it 26 years later, that I'd be hitting the road, that I'd be making another record, that just any and everything that I always said I wanted to do, I've done, just not to Michael Jackson level.
Yeah.
And I recognize that I'm not supposed to. Like, that was his lane.
Yeah.
And I'm in mine. And everybody is I think should recognize themselves as such. Like, whatever lane you're on, as long as you don't quit, you're surviving and you're succeeding. That's how I look at it. And just to answer your question, bro, I was in high school. I was a 17-year-old when I wrote the song.
Oh, 17.
Honest, what I was thinking was I would go to my brethren Scam's house. Big shout to Scam because he produced the track. And he would play me beats and I'd be choosing beats. And I remember wanting the Boiling Point beat.
Okay.
Of course, Boiling Point by Concrete Mob, which also made the Rap Essentials album.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's still my favorite joint. Like, that is the dirtiest beat. I loved it. He goes, that's Concrete Mob's beat. So he played me a bunch of other beats. I selected a few other beats. Dear Hip Hop was one of them. And because of its piano and its sort of poignant melodic vibe to it, The drums slapped, but the piano really gave it a.
Yeah, that's
what
what
it was
that's
like.
what did it to me too, man.
Yeah,
Every time
yeah.
when I hear
yeah.
I'm like,
Piano
yeah,
caught
it's
me
about
too.
to go.
And I just thought at the time that the beat deserved a love song.
Okay.
But at 17 years old, I couldn't really say that I had fallen in love with anybody at that point in my life. What did I love?
Hip
Hip-hop.
hop.
I'm gonna ask you that question now.
So
I
that's
asked it
where
before.
the idea really came from.
Wait.
No,
We still back in the day here, man.
No,
We're gonna get
wait,
into the
no.
future.
He just said something. I'm saying something. When did you fall in love with hip hop? I'm continuing
all right.
like what you're saying.
Go
Like,
on.
when did you?
I'll give you.
fall
I
in
know
love
the exact story. This is easy. I was 10 years old, and in Dear Hip Hop,
Yeah.
the last bar of the first verse, I say, "Ever since I was 10, you've been my best effing friend."
Yes.
Because here's the story. 10 years old, grade 4, I go on a camping trip with my school. The school had taken all the grade 4s and 5s to a camp. It was called Camp Samak.
Okay.
Now, peep this story. I'm a 10-year-old kid at a camp with asthma. And on the first night of the camping trip, I'm coughing my lungs out because I'm around nature, trees, whatever. I was coughing my lungs out. Somebody in the school decided that it was a bright idea to keep all of the children's medication with one teacher and one cabin. So my puffer, my asthma inhaler, wasn't with me, and it wasn't even in my cabin. So I'm there coughing my lungs out. My teacher sent somebody to go get my puffer. He finally comes back with the puffer. I take it. I calm down. I stop coughing, but the entire cabin is awake. Everyone's up because I've been coughing all night.
Okay.
So for some reason, I guess this is the reason, but at the time I didn't know the reason. My teacher shouts to Mr. Nash. I haven't seen him since grade 4, but Mr. Nash was like, "Okay, guys, I know everybody's up. It's late. I want everybody to calm down. I'm just going to put on some music. I want you guys to relax, chill, go to bed." And the dude puts on the Beastie Boys' License to Ill album. I lost my mind. I didn't know what I was listening to. I just knew that was the shit.
Okay.
And in that moment, I changed from wanting to be MJ to wanting to be an MC. That's when I fell in love with hip hop.
Okay. So yo, I have to ask him this, man, straight up. This has been on my mind for a long time too, because I seen you on EC, man. How did it feel to? This is before all this social media jive. All right.
Yeah.
How did it feel to be first time to be on television? You know what I mean? Like nationwide. How did it feel, man? How did that feel to perform nationwide television?
It was amazing. I was so it took me 3. So it was 3 years later after this Camp Samak story. I'm now 13 years old. I'm still in elementary school. I'm a grade 8 student, and Electric Circus was holding this rap-off contest. Now I remember this. This was their first rap-off contest was for tickets to see MC Hammer live in concert. And I was like, I can do without MC Hammer tickets. Not realizing that the real point of the contest was to get on. Like the MC who had won that contest ended up putting a video out that I saw on Much Music. I was like, yo. When the second contest came, it was for LL Cool J tickets. And I was like, okay, I'm down to see LL, but the more important reason I joined that contest is because the last dude who won got on, and I'm like, yo, this is my ticket. So as it panned out, my dude Lindo P, who was older than me, but was DJing, he would DJ like birthday parties and stuff around, just in our area of Scarborough and stuff. So he'd be, like I'm going to birthday parties. He'd see me rap at them and brought me to his crib, and he had 1s and 2s. So he would cut a beat back and forth between the turntables just to create an instrumental for me. And I rapped over it, and that's what we submitted to Electric Circus. I mean, I didn't have any beats. I didn't have a producer. I didn't know what a studio even looked like, bro. I was just like rapping over beats, and we went in there, and I was selected. We were selected, and of course, we ended up getting on the show in May of 1991. We won that contest, and to answer the question, it was a dream come true. It felt amazing, but I will tell you this. I was a cocky 13-year-old because I remember writing. I submitted it on cassette. This is really dating. This is how old school.
Yeah.
On cassette, I wrote on a piece of paper. The song was called Can't Test Me. Already I'm being, bold and braggy. And I wrote, trust me, this is me. And we won that shit. So that's on YouTube for anyone who hasn't seen it. If you punch in "Can't Test Me," Danny O and Lindo P, Partners in Rhyme, Electric Circus. That is the oldest footage of me that exists in life, let alone my first time being on TV. I don't have footage of me any younger than that. So that's how it all started.
But at least you could say one of the pioneers of hip hop could say that he's been on television here back in the day.
Yeah. So
13.
We know that, like, he has many accolades, like what we recognize, right? Like,
I could say one of the accolades. I know that you've gone through journeys through the music, different evolution and all of that. Yeah. I like the days that I know that you like wrestling, man, because you incorporated it in one of the videos you did, bro. I was like, yo, stand out. Yeah, the wrestling. You know what I mean? You love the WWE, and I like.
Listen,
that.
I haven't watched in a while. I grew up a super fan.
Me neither.
I don't watch it now, but I grew up a super fan. And doing that video, and it's called Corrida de Toros, which is Spanish for bullfight. And the concept of the song is me fighting the industry. Because back then, bro, early 2000s, late 90s, all my music was about like trying to get on. I hadn't put out a record. I was just trying to fight my way into the industry. So the video concept was me fighting the industry, and the song concept was the Book of Daniel that the music industry puts artists through.
Was that from the Book of Daniel? That album?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So
okay, I was right.
Continue,
okay,
I want you to continue with what you're saying, because it's interesting until you see like present day what you're saying.
Yeah. So that was the first single and first video from the Book of Daniel, and in understanding the concept of the song was fighting the bull or the bullshit or the the music industry. I decided to create a metaphor and fight the industry, and I decided to use pro wrestling because, to your point, bro, like I was such a big wrestling fan, but I trained. So anyone who you can YouTube that one too, obviously. I trained for about 2 weeks with
you did your own stunts, man. You did your own stunts in that, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, if I'm going to wrestle, it's not going to be like stunt double, or I'm not going to pretend to do it. Like, I'm going to actually do it. And I remember in training, bro, and there are some chops in the video. You know those chops they do against your chest?
Yeah.
Across
I remember going, okay, so how do they do the chops? How do they make it look so real? And the man just chopped me and said like that. I'm like, yo. So what you see in the video is me actually. When I get chopped, I get chopped. When I get slammed, I get slammed. I was power bombed in the video. All of that. Like I was doing it, and I trained to do it so that it was authentic. So that was a lot of fun.
I'm gonna ask you, knowing like that message you were putting through, right? You're trying to put through the industry, like you're talking about that. How do you like after that album? How did you like feel about how things were going for the music industry in regards to like your experiences? Because you were making basically a statement with that track.
Because it was really difficult for me. I'll be honest. It's still difficult. What's changed today is we have platforms like this. And we have brothers like you who will utilize this platform to highlight artists like me. But at the time, we're not even like literally talking about internet era and streaming and all that stuff. It was like artists like me relied on, Much Music to play our videos and the handful of radio shows, God willing, that would play your music on the radio. So when you are an independent artist growing up in that era, this is early 2000s now, it was tough, man. It was hard. And so,
I'm glad to hear this. I'm really glad. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm really glad to hear this.
I want to hear more.
Why? You know why I'm glad to hear this? Because why I'm saying this. So you're pretty much saying your era and artists and all that had it more tougher and harder than the ones right now have it so damn easy than it is. Right?
100%. Because think about it. 100%. Like back then when you released something, when you use the words, I'm dropping a single or album or whatever, you had to literally do it. I'm talking about a cassette or a record or a CD.
That's right.
Okay. So now you can drop something simply by uploading a file to the internet or to a streaming service. So the amount of effort and work right into the mixing, mastering, manufacturing, pressing stages of putting something out was part of the deal. So obviously that took money and it took a lot of time and effort. So there's a lot of people who quite honestly quit the game or fell off or felt like this was too much because they were spending more money than they were making.
Yeah.
And it was because, and then of course you're talking about promotion too.
Yep.
And if you're not a signed artist like myself, part of the question I was answering earlier is like how I felt about the game. It's not like I wasn't signed to a major label. I've never had anyone take my career and push me. I have always been at the forefront of the Danny O push. So anything you've ever seen or heard from me is because I put in the work to make that happen. I grinded to make sure I was earning loot to afford studio time, and then every other part of the process, including the mixing, mastering, and manufacturing. So if I pressed a CD or a record and sold it at my show, or literally drove it to wherever you were, because literally I was willing to hustle to get my product into the hands of people who wanted it. You had to, because there wasn't a time where I could go, stream it or download it. That didn't happen.
So
right?
I'm gonna
yet.
I want to ask you.
I was in a place where I was getting really frustrated with the game, and I never quit, but I did take a somewhat of a hiatus.
So
and
that's what I was gonna ask you. Like
Daniel, my second album, See No Evil, Hear No Evil. What some people don't know is I followed it up with, at the time, what I called like a street CD, which is called Speak No Evil, The Last of Danny O. Because in my mind, I was like, forget this. And I had moved on to my acting career, doing a podcast, finding all kind of other ways to work in entertainment without being so focused on the music, which I was feeling wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I wanted. And then, of course, I restarted my music career years later when I gave up on worrying so much about the industry.
Was that happening during the time? Like, I know that you were individuals, but you were part of a group, Monolith, as well, right?
Absolutely.
Was that like that was during the time?
Go back to the past.
As being an individual artist, or that happened during the time, like, at the same time?
Yeah, Monolith started in '94. When I started high school. So if we go back to me being on Electric Circus, the summer after Electric Circus is when I start high school. And when I start high school, shouts to Francis Lieberman in Scarborough, most of or a good half of the crew that made up Monolith went to that school, and we became brethren. We became crew. Right. We started performing together as the Lyrical Coalition in school, talent shows, anywhere that there was a mic, we'd show up. We met up with another crew called The Horde. The Horde and the Lyrical Coalition unified and became Monolith in 1994.
Okay.
And so Dear Hip Hop, like when you see the video, like I was already part of the crew. They're in the video. I'm shouting them out at the end of the video. So Monolith has always existed since then and still exists today. So we've always been brothers in arms in this game.
It's good.
Amidst the ups and downs.
You answered the question. I was saying how you had adapt to these recent times, and you're saying you've done a little acting, you've done a little, like, you came back as an artist. I realized that you even do a podcast. I seen the grandfather, what is it called?
Godfather's a podcast.
I like that. I see that's what I'm saying. Like, there's other doors and avenues as an artist, right? There's no shame to say, like, you love music, but sometimes it's not, it's not the time maybe for it. You got to take a little rest, look back, and analyze.
Yeah,
I mean, do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you could do a lot of different things to earn a living, and I've always wanted to make sure that my creative juices are flowing because, like I said, I wanted to be an entertainer since I was a little kid. So, in addition to becoming this MJ fan, or you guys touched on me like loving wrestling, and I love sports, and I love music, and I love movies. So this was always just my thing. So in making music being my number one passion, I knew, especially being, Canadian artist and independent artist, like there's other avenues for me. And if I can keep it under the umbrella of art and entertainment, then I'll be happy, because I was always loving entertainment anyways, TV, movies. My brother and I would mimic what we just saw. I'd take drama class in high school. My boy Grimace Love, who's in Monolith, and we'd come up with our own characters and be silly. To this day, we do that. We talk in different. We speak in character sometimes to each other. So it was always just kind of inculcated in us to, like, be entertaining. And of course, when I saw the world of hip hop through everybody from LL Cool J to Mos Def to Ice-T to Queen Latifah to Common, man, you name it, they're acting too.
Yep.
And if you're an entertainer, that's sort of comes as part of what your skill set should be anyway. And so I was like, I'm going in that direction, and I continue to work in that way.
I'm gonna ask you, being a Toronto legend, right? I call you a legend, right? Because I grew up listening to you straight up. I remember we saw him in the studio a long time, but he doesn't remember when we were with Elevation.
Oh yeah.
But I was gonna say, what do you think about Toronto's hip hop, the evolution, or like from your time till now? What's promoted? Is there a balance? Do you think they need more artists such as yourself, or is just the new generation the excuse? That's what's popular. You get what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do. And I think that my answer to that isn't Toronto specific, because I think what's happening in Toronto is a little bit of an example of what's happening almost throughout hip hop. Okay. There is a new generation. These are obviously younger people than us. Yeah. And so what they vibe to, what they're interested in, their sound, their style, it is much different. And I live in a world where I know that music isn't made for me. It's not made by me. What I definitely don't do, and I don't subscribe to, is hating on anybody who's making a name for themselves and becoming successful. Whether I like the music or not doesn't matter. I want to see people get on. Mm-hmm. And I think that's happening in hip hop because, again, just what's happening in Toronto, like I said, there's a lot of cats from Toronto who I wouldn't necessarily fuck with musically, but if they're making names for themselves, I'm like, good, because what they're doing is utilizing the platforms we never had. Like on my last album, I straight start one of my songs by going, I'm not that social media savvy. Yeah. Obese with these raps, but these people keep treating me badly. I'm fiending to grab the attention of more than 1,000 views in my first week, but it hurts me as if Jesus has stabbed me. Because I recognize that the internet has become the main source of any and every type of media you could consume. Video, a song, a film, a show. Yeah. And these young cats grew up in that, so they know how to utilize it.
In fact, I told my pops this, the internet is like the new telephone. You know what I mean? Like ULR is like the telephone number. You know
It's everything. It's the new record player.
Yep. It's everything.
You know what I'm saying? It's the television. It's the film. It's the movie theater. It's everything.
It's the babysitter too.
Oh, exactly. Mm-hmm. So when you grow up in that generation that understands, like, this is how it, dude, my daughter has shown me how to use my phone.
Yeah. Don't feel no shame to that, man.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I to your point, I've learned to understand, like, listen, there's no shame in the fact that I was born when I was born. I didn't choose that. I was influenced by who I was influenced by. You know, I was even saying to someone the other day, like, Thriller 40 dropped yesterday, and there might be some people just hearing that album for the first time. But what they're not going to be able to do.
It's true, though. It's true.
Right.
It's true, though.
But what they're not going to be able to do is take that album in as a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to take that album in the 80s. So their feelings towards it are still going to be different. So I can sit here and go, listen, Thriller's the best album ever, but you won't be able to experience what it was like to have heard it for the first time at 5 and lived 40 years loving that album. You're only going to be hearing it today for the first time. I said this to somebody else about The Christmas Story, because yesterday they also dropped the sequel to A Christmas Story.
Oh, they did?
And someone was like, I've never seen the original. Came out in 1983. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I grew up with that. So if you
we grew up with that.
I can sit here and tell you, listen, Christmas Story is my favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's true.
But you can't watch it as a 6-year-old the way I did and grow up with it. So I've learned that all the hip hop we love, you and I, you brothers and I, we could go back and forth probably all night. We could talk Wu-Tang, Tribe, De La, Public Enemy, NWA, Big Daddy Kane. We can do that because our attachment to it started so long ago.
Yeah.
But when we tell this new generation about it and they're being introduced to these artists, they can't feel what we felt in the 90s. They're
I see what you mean. I always try to explain that to some heads.
But to what he's saying,
Mm.
one thing I do say to some of these new artists, I go like this: you went to school, right? And they go, yeah. You had to learn subjects that you didn't really interested, right? Right. Okay. So check this out. Now you're interested in something, right? So now when I tell you some artists back in the day, I don't have to say you have to be influenced or whatever. At least learn something.
I
You
know
get what I'm
about it.
saying? Because
Yeah.
you went to school to learn something what you didn't want to learn. So learn something what you want to learn, right?
I hear you.
They're like that.
I hear you. Listen, as part of my career, I teach hip hop songwriting. I've been doing it for
Oh,
about
neat.
16 years now.
Okay.
I've worked with youth as young as like 9 and 10.
Mhm.
I've worked with people twice my age. I've worked with people who've never written a rap in their life, or maybe they're poets and they want to transition to rap, or they're just literally learning what this hip hop thing is. I've run the gamut of different people who have decided, let me try my hand at how to write raps or what a rap is, and
Mhm.
understanding, the syncopation, the rhyme patterns, beat counts, beat signature, 4/4 time, all these different things. And what I'm realizing is different people come from different walks of life in terms of what their musical interests are.
True.
As long as I can get them to have an appreciation for what rap is, and I mean real actual like bars, like this is how you rhyme,
You're right.
Yeah.
right? Then I'm okay. Because to your point, I agree that they have ample ways to educate themselves. The internet, right?
Yeah.
Today, I don't have to tell you about an artist. I could go plug this person's name in Google or YouTube. You're going to find out. Spotify, you'll hear it and see it
It's
all.
better than any encyclopedia in the library.
You know what, though?
Yo,
to
bro,
be fair,
it's so easy.
It's a
But
balance.
what we can't do is give them their taste. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No,
If
no,
they
that-
can gain
that
an
I can't do.
appreciation,
Right.
You're
Yeah.
right there.
I'm just
That I
looking
can't.
for appreciation, like what you like.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I
at
know
least,
what I like.
But at least learn. At least
I agree.
learn.
But you know
Sure.
what?
You know?
I can't really say that because it's a stereotype too. You're thinking
Yeah.
that a lot of the youth ain't learning.
No,
They
no, no.
actually are listening.
Listen here, man. Listen here.
They
You know,
do
Listen
listen.
here, man.
They do
Listen here.
listen.
What I mean by learning. What
Yeah.
I mean by learning. It doesn't have to be the craft of hip hop. It could be anything. You have to go back into the day.
No, they do-
like
no,
say a photographer, right?
Yeah.
It's best to understand the backing of the technicality of being a photographer. Like I'm talking about like the dark room and all of that. A photographer nowadays doesn't know nothing about a dark
Yeah.
room. You get
But
what I'm saying?
what I'm saying is it's what's promoted you're seeing. But when you go ask the youth, like my son is 22, he listens to. I didn't
Wow.
influence him. He listens to Wu-Tang. He listens to like all what you're like what you think a 22-year-old won't listen to, but it's what's getting promoted. The people who are running these sites and stuff who are near our age, it's not no person who's 20 sometime. They're the ones promoting the stuff what you say you don't want. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're thinking sometimes it's all these young people, but who's running these sites? Who's really pumping it? It's not no 20-year-old.
You got a point there.
You get what I mean? They're pumping
Yeah.
what you think is popular, what probably hit
What
the
goes,
what hits
what
the
hits the
market in
market.
Atlanta. So because it hits that market, everybody over here has to try to do that type of sound. But really, when you
Yeah.
talk to some, for example, Canadian kids, we talked to some before, like artists on here, and you ask them what they listen to. It's some artists from the 90s.
Mhm.
They're listening to like rock, like maybe a KRS One, or they're listening to even if it's Eminem, or you know what I mean. They're someone you don't think they're listening to. I'm just saying it's a stereotype, thinking a lot of the youth are just listening to the trap and you know what.
Yeah. Well, I've learned that too in doing my workshops. I've worked with youth who do know our era or certain artists or even certain songs or whatever. So yeah, it's tough. You can't necessarily stereotype all kids of a certain age group or younger people as all liking the same stuff, doing the same stuff, or thinking the same way. But I think all we can really do is do our part in trying to educate, at least by
Yep.
introducing the music. And, as parents, I mean, listen, it's crazy. You have a 22-year-old. That's a surprise to me. But I will say this, we did something as a father to get him interested in that. Because I can tell you that my 8-year-old does know MJ and does understand what records are. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah.
there are, I fully know DJs who have never owned a record. I don't know why I pronounced it record, but you understand, like they don't own records, like, because the technology is such that you don't even need wax, right?
Yeah, that's
No,
what. Yeah, there's DJs
don't
like
need
that.
wax.
now.
It was unheard of.
Wax. Yep. Yep.
You're right.
In our era, it was unheard of. A DJ, you have to carry crates into the club. So
Mhm.
I understand technology has definitely gotten advanced. technology has changed a lot.
Mhm.
The platforms by which we consume and even make our music have completely changed.
Yep.
But if we can do the knowledge or help those who may not understand otherwise, like I knew when I was having a kid, I'm like, she will know records, she'll know what tapes and CDs are, but she's gonna know about records, and she's gonna hear these artists. So
Mhm.
you know, I can play MJ, my little girl will sing along. Now
Yeah.
she does like her own stuff too,
Well,
right?
of
There's
course.
newer artists, and she can sing you know, say a Justin Bieber song or whatever. Like she's into
Mhm.
certain songs. But to your point, she was at least given the opportunity to be introduced to the stuff so that she can know it and hopefully appreciate it. And
Mhm.
again, it all comes down to that for me. If you have an appreciation for what came before the stuff that you're into, that's cool. If you don't care, you don't want to learn, I guess that's on you. But to me, I think especially if you're an artist, you should do the knowledge and study your craft. I agree with you.
Yes,
Just like a
exactly.
photographer or anyone else in whatever form of art they create,
Genre. Yeah.
know where it came from so you know where to take it.
Yes,
True.
exactly. At
Yeah.
least know the roots or
So,
something.
yo, I'm gonna ask you this question. I don't know. There was appreciation, right? this is a down to earth question.
Go on.
Appreciation for all these Toronto artists a couple months ago. I see, right?
Yeah.
No one's perfect, but do you think that was good for Toronto that one of the ambassadors who's commercially out there brought a lot of the legends together?
I think it was amazing for Toronto. I wish I was part of it.
Me too.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
what I was
Yep.
thinking of.
I think it was
Mm.
amazing. I think in a way that kind of partly touches on the conversation we were just having, because what Drake did for this year's OVO was he introduced, I believe he introduced a lot of people
Mhm.
that we already know as like legendary artists in the game
Yep.
and well respected and well, you know, well seasoned, that his generation of fans may have never heard of.
Yep.
And the second they became affiliated with his event, they meant something even more to people who may never have heard of them before. So I hope he keeps doing it. I hope I'm part of it one day.
Of course, you have to
honestly,
be.
Man,
You,
I'll be
wait.
pissed.
You're the first light-skinned rapper from Canada.
Oh wow. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, but
Well,
hey,
single rapper coming out
I'll
before
take it.
Drake. Before Drake,
Yeah,
I
man.
put a bet on it.
Yeah,
I put a
man.
bet
He
on
can't
it.
be saying he's the first light skin nigga doing.
I put a bet
you know
on
what's
it.
hilarious? You know what's hilarious? You guys asked me earlier if I kind of knew or saw what was going to happen, you know, back when I put out my first record. I didn't, but I had aspirations. And
Okay.
if you took me back to the 90s and go, you know, one of these days, the world's biggest artist is going to be a hip hop artist from Toronto. He'll have 5 letters in his name. It'll start with D. I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah,
You know, you would have had me geeked. Like,
yeah.
yo,
It's true.
So-
It's true.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like-
true. Still.
you know, I came close. At least he you know, he's light skinned.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like a Back to the Future moment.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
facts, man. That's facts.
Facts,
But I
man.
like what he's doing because
Mhm.
a lot of people don't go back to they don't have to go back to their city.
Nope.
Most rappers, commercial industry rappers, not saying all of them, but they don't do what Drake's doing. Drake's
No,
like,
and that's kind of my point is whether you like Drake's music or not, he shows an appreciation. And this goes right back to what I was talking about. He shows an appreciation for the artists who came before him. So he can have blown up and become this mega superstar, but it's not like he forgot where he's from or
Yep.
the people who also come from where he's from. So when you put a Maestro and a Chaclair and a Cardinal and you know, these
Yes.
people on stage,
Mhm.
I rate that very highly. You know, it's a big deal because he knows the power that he has and the influence he has. And of course, he hasn't forgotten where he's come from and who came before him. So even if it's a one night, it's a good look. And, you
Yeah,
know,
it's coming,
my hope
man.
is that he'll continue to do things like that.
I'm gonna see you on the next OVO.
Yeah, man.
He's listening. Trust me.
Here's
Trust
hoping.
me. Yeah, I give you a hint. Yeah.
Yeah, man. For
Yeah,
sure.
somebody,
so, yeah.
you know, hit up Drake and let him know.
Yeah,
I'm
done,
gonna
no.
ask you this because it's popular in America and other places with hip hop. You ever think, because you're good at your lyrics, of course. You ever think of doing
Thank
a children's book? Because you have,
Wow. Big shout out to my bro Wordsworth. Wordsworth just dropped. I'm going to throw a plug out there. My man Wordsworth, who's a legendary MC. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about. One of Brooklyn's finest. I mean, he was on Black Star's first album. He was on Tribe's album, The Love Movement. He's done all kinds of solo work. He's part of a group with Master Ace. Like, if y'all don't know the name Wordsworth, everybody out there watching,
I know that.
Please Google, please Spotify, please YouTube. Do the knowledge like we just finished talking about.
That's right.
Wordsworth just put out a children's book. I think it's called, I don't want to disrespect the name. I think it's called Socks. And it's about, when socks get lost in the laundry.
Yeah.
And so there's a flashlight character and there's socks looking for the missing socks and stuff. And I'm like, bro, like, he keeps adding to his resume. He's an author. He's already published a book based on lyrics from one of his albums. Now he's doing this children's book. He is a teacher, a legitimate teacher teaching in the state of Florida. So like, he is one of my, he's a friend, but he's also a contemporary, really dope MC, but he's an inspiration because, like we talked about earlier, he doesn't stop at one thing and call it a day. He's multifaceted in his talents. And it's funny you asked me that question because and that's why I'm shouting him out, is one of the inspirations for me to go, yo, I might need to expand my resume even further.
I see you doing that.
It's crossed my mind. It's not something I've done before, but I've been encouraged to write a book. I write all the time. So
yeah,
man. I'll check.
And even Maestro, shouts to Maestro Fresh West.
He came out with a book,
second children's album.
Yes.
Yeah. So listen, I've always, especially as a dad now, man, I've always rated anybody who works with children in whatever capacity and doing stuff for the kids. It's all dope.
It's the future, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess I need to step up my game and figure that one out.
Good.
Down to Snoop came up with some children products
so.
like down to cereal and all of that.
Snoop, listen, that man has his hands in everything. He's the ultimate hip hop legend.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what he hasn't touched.
Oh, that's for sure.
Maybe what is next?
Maybe.
Reggie, when you have a show and you're baking with Martha Stewart and you're still putting out some of the dopest hip, come on, bro. Snoop is that guy is an untouchable
icon,
legend. He's an icon. Love Snoop.
So what's next for you? Are you planning anything like you
what's next for Danny-O for 2023? That's what.
Yes. Well, thanks for asking. First and foremost, I have to shout out and plug the Hip Hop Food Drive. So that's what's next for me. Nice. Big shout outs to Jay Morris. This is the 8th year that he's hosted the annual food drive. The Hip Hop Food Drive, and it keeps getting bigger every year. So for those who don't know, please go to hiphopfooddrive.com. You can give donations. So if it's a monetary donation, that donation is going to go to one of 8 food banks across Canada. With every year, he adds a city. This year being the 8th Hip Hop Food Drive. There are 8 cities that are involved. And starting December 10th, we're hitting the road to perform live because the last 2 years, because of COVID, it was all virtual.
Okay.
So we're back on the road. So the Hip Hop Food Drive is back. It is officially live. It starts December 10th in Vancouver. We're hitting up Calgary, Halifax, Toronto, London, Ontario, Kingston, Ontario, Gatineau, Quebec, and Ottawa. Those are the 8 cities that we'll be performing live at starting December 10th through to December 18th. Details are at hiphopfooddrive.com. If you're in any one of those cities, come to the show. Support by bringing both or either a monetary donation or a food donation that will go to a food drive in your city. And of course, enjoy a dope hip hop event. I'm proud to be part of the Hip Hop Food Drive for, I think, the 3rd, could even be the 4th time. I might be losing count here. And I'm headlining the shows this year. Okay. And so that's what's next. So I want everybody to know about that because that's big. In the new year, with fingers crossed, the album that I'm currently working on will be finished and released at some point in 2023.
All right.
I have been doing some work this year in the acting world that should be also coming out in 2023. So look for a new series called Slip, in which I play a part in one of the episodes, and a Disney Plus film called World's Best.
Big.
All right.
That I have a small part in. All small parts, but no parts are small.
Still enough coming up for 2023.
Yeah. So that I know is on tap. And for everything else, you can always hit me online. That's my Instagram, Danny-O1010, and that's how you spell my name, Dan-E-O.com is the website. And as we talked about at the top of the show, Dear Hip Hop's now 26 years old and is available on 7-inch single. So the Dear Hip Hop vinyl is out, and you can get it direct from my website and or record stores, or hit me up directly online if you feel like it.
You got it in Play the Record?
Keep him busy.
Did you get it and Play the Record as well?
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you brought up Play the Record because I want to shout out the Drop the Needle documentary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You guys don't know already because we linked. But Drop the Needle is out now. I know they had 4 sold out Toronto shows.
I went to 3 of them, the premieres.
You went to 3? Dope.
3 of them are covered.
That's amazing, bro. And I appreciate you doing that. They're hitting Calgary next. If you're in Calgary, go to CalgaryUndergroundFilm.org. I believe November 25th. The film is playing there. More dates to come, and that documentary, as you guys know, is about Play the Record, a historic record store in Toronto that I was a customer of. That I was an artist who sold his music in, and I was also an artist who recorded in the studio in the basement. So me and Play the Record go back, and I have nothing but love for Eugene and the whole family.
Yo, I must say much respect for Daniel for coming through. Alumni,
Thank you.
B2E, down to earth. This was great, man. This is an honor.
Thank you, guys.
Legends, pioneers, man. We always got to keep in touch. We have to keep in touch and updated with everything what you said for 2023, my brother. You
for sure.
Know.
Well,
you don't know.
No doubt. Thank you guys for having me.
I might want to come out to the Toronto the hip hop drive. When is that date?
December 14th.
14th. Okay, I'm gonna keep that on my date. On my
in Toronto. Details are still to come in terms of the venues and everything, and the other performing artists. So, hiphopfooddrive.com is where.
All right, then.
All right.
For sure. But before we go, you don't know what. Before I be saying this, man, this is the Rastafari Samurai. Never leaving you dry in your eye. I'll prove this message nationwide. Pop, 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 pop.
Your host,
a salute.
Sean Myrie, bless up.
You
Daniel.
don't know. Daniel.
Much respect for coming through, brother. Bless
yes,
up.
sir. Peace.
Bless up. We are signing out just now.